The puck underneath them. Monsters still looking for that first meaningful possession of overtime. Here's Sillinger. Chips to himself. Gets around the corner on Dauphin. He'll shoot. He scores! An overtime winner for Owen Sillinger. And the Monsters win it 2-1 as this place goes nuts. It's a Cleveland victory. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Monsters OT. We're so happy to be with you here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Tony Brown here with you. We'll hear from my co-host, Brad Thiessen, in just a minute, and we've got a big show. But we wanted to highlight Owen Sillinger there, scored a dramatic overtime winner for Cleveland on January the 11th, and it came on the heels of what was a memorable weekend, to be sure. We'll get to that in just a second. Still to come on the show, we'll keep it clean at Whistle Express Car Wash in Parma with Curtis Hall. Then, of course, our Monsters alumni segment is coming up, and Nick Blazer is here to tell us who's hot across the AHL. Let's start with headlines. Well, on headlines this week, we're going to begin with Owen Sillinger because it was one of the most memorable weekends, I think, probably of his life. In that weekend that saw the Monsters split with Laval, he started off with his NHL debut the night prior, and he, filling in for his younger brother, Cole Sillinger, generated a really special moment for the entire family as he made his debut, skated for 13 minutes for the Blue Jackets in a game against the Seattle Kraken on the 9th of January there. And Brad, just a huge thing for a NHL family. The Sillingers, of course, Mike played their dad, and 3 boys, 2 of them now have made their NHL debut for the Blue Jackets. Pretty special. Yeah, awesome moment for the Sillingers. Awesome moment for Owen. You know, as a player, you're always working towards that moment when the coach says, hey, you're getting that call up, and so excited for him to get that opportunity. And he did a great job up there. Yeah, especially given his age. I mean, he's 27 years of age. He came to Cleveland on an American League deal a couple of years back, and he has really created this opportunity for himself. Signed an NHL deal in the offseason, makes his debut there. But if you're looking for someone responsible for this, it's Owen Sillinger himself. Yeah, he's put in a ton of work. He's become a real leader for the Monsters in the locker room, on the ice, just the way he handles himself, how he carries himself. And I know the coaches really trust him in all situations. All right, let's keep going on headlines now, Brad, and talk about Luca Del Bel Blues, who's now a bona fide Del Bel Blue Jacket there because he's played in all 6 Blue Jackets games since his recent recall to Columbus. He's about a half point per game this season with 3 points in 6 appearances, but an AHL All-Star this year, and of course the Monsters' leader in scoring. Yeah, Brad, you've seen a lot of young players come through Cleveland on their way to the NHL or just, spend some time here during their development. What makes him kind of special? What makes you excited for what he can do long-term at the next level? His IQ, his hockey IQ. He's such a good reader of the game. He knows where to be on the ice. Maybe his speed isn't as high end as some others, but he makes up for it with his little plays that he makes, his passes, the way he sees things on the ice. So he'll be able to translate that to the NHL for sure. Yeah, his coachability, his attitude too, also huge factors for a very promising young player in Luca Del Bel Blues. Let's keep going on headlines now and check on the injury situation for the Monsters. As Brad, we know the team's been mostly healthy for the majority of the season here, but of course we've talked about Corson Kuhlman's now out long-term. That's a blow on the back end. James Malatesta, we had a little bit more clarity here recently about his injury. Looks like week to week as he's missed now 9 games for the Monsters, but his recovery going to take a little while. Yeah, he's a big part of the Monsters. When he's playing really well, he's got that high energy motor, getting in on the forecheck, causing chaos. So Monsters look forward to having him back when he heals up. All right, let's keep going on headlines now with a check of the North Division standings here as they are fluctuating and constantly in motion. At the moment, as of the time of this taping, it's Rochester leading the division by a single point over second place Laval. Cleveland 1 point behind the Rocket there in third, and then Toronto, Syracuse sort of rounding out the real contenders in the division as things remain tight. I mean, they've been tight for months now in the season, and it's going to be that way throughout the end of the campaign. Yeah, it really has. I mean, you said some of a little bit of separation there from that top half to the bottom, but the top half is as strong as it gets in the American Hockey League this year. So some good competition and some fun hockey to be played down the stretch here. And again, just for the fans, remember, regulation wins is that first tiebreaker. So when you're rooting for the Monsters in these division matchups, just know that a win is great, but a win prior to overtime is the ideal situation to put yourself in the best position come playoff time. Let's keep it going now with some upcoming telecasts we want you to be aware of here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Monsters hosting the Chicago Wolves on the 23rd. We'll have the call for you 7 o'clock on RESN with Jock Callender and myself. And then Lumberjacks weekend's going to be a lot of fun, Tease. It'll be all three of us in the booth, me, you, and Jocko, on Friday, January the 31st against Providence, and Billy Sweezy coming back to Cleveland, a former fan favorite. 7 o'clock game there. Same deal the next night, Saturday, February the 1st. It'll be you and I on the call. But, we have so much fun with our Rock Entertainment Sports Network telecasts. It's a great way for fans who have been following the team to really get a front row seat to the action.
Oh yeah, I get a lot of people just around town, my kids' hockey and things like that, saying they tune into the game. So great opportunity for people around town to catch the Monsters. For
sure. All right, and speaking of Lumberjacks weekend, that is just going to be great. I know so many longtime hockey fans here in Cleveland are pumped to see these jerseys that the Monsters are going to be wearing. It's sort of an amalgam of different looks that the Lumberjacks had back in the day, so it's something new.
Stupid copier.
Jocko, you need a hand?
Oh, this thing never works. Back in the day, that's when things were good.
All right, let's take a look. Oh, you know what? It's out of paper. What's this for, anyways?
Jacks are back.
Now, it might help if you dropped your gloves.
Sure about that?
Welcome back, everyone, to Monsters OT here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network with Brad Thiessen. I'm Tony Brown. Tease, time now on the show to go in the room and hear from Monsters head coach Trent Vogelhuber with his thoughts prior to some recent games here. Let's start with Trent talking about a really tough game the Monsters played on the 10th of January, a 5-0 loss, their first meeting with the Laval Rocket this year. He was speaking after that game prior to the rematch, and he was not happy with his team's performance the night prior.
Same discussion we've had far too many times this year. Again, the first period was solid, pretty even both ways. Had some good chances where we didn't hit the net. Even first 5 minutes of the second period, pretty solid. Some good ozone time, and then some details start slipping, and they get a goal there. And I was just disappointed in the reaction to the goal, and it's something we talk about a lot. We talk about reacting to good and bad things by elevating. And I thought our bench got down and we got divisive when things started going the wrong way. And that's human nature, is to get frustrated when there's a bouncer or so that goes the wrong way. But in reality, you got to come together. You got to pull each other in rather than push and get frustrated. And that's what it felt like for me as a coach on the bench last night. It was a group of guys that got frustrated, and that frustration was channeled towards each other rather than towards the other team and sticking together. And there's just no way you're going to come out of adverse situations in the middle of a game like that when that's your response.
Well, I like a lot of things about working with Trent Vogelhuber. One of them is you can tell, Brad, he cares a whole lot, and he takes these games almost personally. That's a great thing for a coach. And he also is blunt, and he'll tell you what's on his mind. He sure did there.
Yeah, it's one of those things this year with the Monsters. One of the themes is coming off 2 or more days rest. It's been a struggle, and that was one of those games where the Monsters just didn't really come out to play. And as coaches and Trent trying to figure out the riddle of what's going to get them to go in some of those games. So you heard him there talking there, just trying to, at a loss a little bit at times, trying to figure it out, and we're looking forward to seeing in the rest of the season kind of figuring out that riddle.
Absolutely. Next up in the room, we talked in our last segment about Daniil Tarasov a little bit, but I asked Trent prior to a recent game here, just his thoughts on Daniil taking advantage of the conditioning loan with Cleveland.
Yeah, I thought he had a good bounce back effort on Saturday night. He wanted it really bad, and that's never a question. He puts in the work, and sometimes when results are struggling, you can doubt those things, but you just have to stick with your process and trust that it'll work out. And I think he did that and got the result for us and obviously for himself on Saturday, which I think was a bit of a weight off his shoulders. Sometimes when you're in a rut, you just get one for a goaltender like that, and you can kind of feel some relief. And then he goes and gets one in Columbus. So happy for him.
Let's talk, as we already spoke about Tarasov and his loan, Brad, about what he does best when he's at his best, his style, and what makes him special when he's really playing well.
Yeah, well, he's a huge goalie that takes up a lot of net. When he's struggling, there's a lot of holes, and when he's not, when he's on his game, he keeps it simple. He's really athletic. He reads the game well and makes himself big in that net, and that's what we saw on that game on Saturday night, and what he's carried over now to the Blue Jackets.
All right, our final cut in the room is Trent Vogelhuber talking prior to a Monsters game on the road in Grand Rapids on January the 18th about Jet Greaves. Yet again, a vintage performance from him with 40 saves the night prior in that same shootout victory. Here's Trent talking about how important Jet is to this team's achievements.
Yeah, we don't win without him. The down 2-0 at the end of the first, we feel like we still got a chance to win because of him, and it could have been worse, and ultimately gives us a chance to claw our way back in. So he's no real surprise for me anymore. Jet's Jet, and big reason for success.
Yeah, you don't want to keep talking about the same things, but Jet makes you keep talking about him because he, like Trent said, was the reason they won that game, really, and that's been the case in a lot of games these last few years.
Yeah, it has, and he's been playing really well lately, and in that game particularly, it was 26 shots in the first period that he faced and was able to keep the team in it, and then stopped all 4 in the shootout, which is an area that he's really improved upon over the years.
26 shots allowed in a single period, club record. Also 24 saves in that period for Greaves, yet another franchise record as he is piling them up on the goaltending side, just as Trey Fix-Wolanski is piling up those franchise records on the offensive side. All right, right now, it's time to take a look at a cool conversation we had with Curtis Hall, a Northeast Ohio native. He kept it clean with us at Whistle Express Car Wash in Parma. All right, guys, we are keeping it clean once again here at Whistle Express Car Wash in Parma, and you can see our guest today, Cleveland's own Curtis Hall. Curtis, thanks for taking a few minutes.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk cars. What are you driving these days?
I am driving a 2021 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport.
Nice. Okay. What about when you just started out? Like, what was your first car way back when?
The first car was a 2013 Ford Fusion.
Okay. Nice.
Silver with some black rims. I got the windows tinted.
Let's talk about Cleveland, man, because this is really cool for you. I know you started in the Boston organization, you've been in the Detroit organization, but now a chance to play in your hometown. I mean, that's a chance not many people get.
No, not at all. And I'm so fortunate and blessed and happy to be here and be able to be around my family and friends who, I've been away from for so many years. I grew up going to the Monsters games all the time. So it's like pretty full circle, and playing out of Rocket Mortgage is just amazing.
Let me ask you about your time in college, right? Because you overlapped with a couple of guys the Monster fans know well, and Bill Sweezy, who's now with the Bruins, but also with Justin Pearson. So what were those guys like way back in the day?
They were great. I mean, me and Justin were in the same class, so we went in as a freshmen together, and we had a good 2.5 years together there, which were just some of the best times of my life. And Sweezy was a big leader on our team, and such a good guy and great character, and he was really smart. So I think he was like biomedical engineering or something. Yeah. And he led the way for a lot of the younger guys.
It's got to be nice to come into a new room and at least have one face that you know so well.
Definitely, and Pearson was one of my best friends when I was at Yale, so pretty cool to come back and play together.
Well, it's great to have you here in Cleveland, Curtis. Thanks for this, and that was Keeping It Clean here at Whistle Express Car Wash in Parma. That's Curtis Hall. We got to get him to practice. So until next time, I'm Tony Brown. Welcome back, everyone, on Monsters OT here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Tony Brown back with you. Now, we've still got our True North Monsters alumni segment coming up, but right now it's time to figure out who is hot across the American Hockey League with the Monsters' own Nick Blazer. Nick?
All right, thanks, Tony, and welcome everyone to another edition of Who's Hot Around the American Hockey League. I'm Nick Blazer, diving right into things with the Atlantic Division. Hottest team there, the Hershey Bears. In their last 10, they have a 7-3 record and are currently on a 4-game win streak dating back to January 10th. Currently sitting first place in that Atlantic Division and first in the Eastern Conference with an impressive 25-11-3 record, good for 53 points, in leading the second place Providence Bruins by 7 as they currently sit at 46 in the standings. Their player to watch will be forward Alex Limoges. Since Thanksgiving, 13 points in 14 games played, 6 goals there with 8 assists as well, and a game-winning goal back on January 10th versus Charlotte. He currently sits in third place within Hershey's top point getters at 25 points. Moving on to the North Division, the Utica Comets 6-4 in their last 10 games. And if you remember, they had a very, very slow start to this season, not winning their first game until November 22nd. That was a 4-3 win over the Syracuse Crunch, but have been 12-9-1 since. That is good for a .569 winning percentage, so a huge turnaround for them there offensively. Monsters this season were 3-1 against the Comets and will not be seeing them again. And their player to watch would be forward Xavier Parent. 6 points in the last 4 games played, 4 goals and 2 assists under his belt, including a game winner in their most recent game back on January 20th against Syracuse. He is currently tied for 6th place in point getting on the Comets with his teammate Ryan Schmelzer at 16 points. Moving on to the Central Division now, the Texas Stars. They've been a hot team here throughout the month of December into January with an 8-2 record in their last 10. They lost their most recent game 4-0 to Milwaukee back on the 19th, but currently sitting in 2nd place in that tough Central Division and 5th in the Western Conference at 22-13-1. Their player to watch, Matej Blumel, the forward, 14 points in the last 9 games played, 8 goals and 6 assists with a +4 rating. Bouncing now into the Pacific Division, the Abbotsford Canucks. In the last 10, they are 6-3-1 with a 6-game win streak starting back on January 10th with a 4-1 win over Henderson. They currently sit in 6th place in the division, 8th place in the Western Conference with a 20-15 1-1 record, good for 42 points. Player to watch from that squad, Nils Oman's 6-game point streak for him. 9 points within that stretch dating back to January 10th, including 2 game-winning goals and most recently 2 multi-point nights against San Jose to help them continue that win streak this past weekend. And he is currently the team leader in point getting at 24 points and has played 5 games with their NHL squad, the Vancouver Canucks, this season with 2 assists. That'll do it for another edition of Who's Hot Around the American Hockey League. Back to you, Tony.
Great stuff as always from the Monsters social media manager, Nick Blazer. That's Who's Hot across the American Hockey League. Quick break and we'll come back with more Monsters OT. Up next, it's our Monsters alumni segment presented by True North Convenience Stores. This is Monsters OT with more to come on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Welcome back one last time on this latest edition of Monsters OT here on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Brad Thiessen's back alongside me. I'm Tony Brown, and it's time for our Monsters alumni segment presented by True North Convenience Stores, fast, friendly, clean. And Thies, this time we're talking about the Monsters' most recent captain, prior to Stefan Matteau, of course, and that's Brendan Gaunce, a guy who's got a really good career going here over the course of about a decade between the NHL and the American League, a former first-round pick of Vancouver, and right now in the Minnesota organization. He was a key leader for this team and a highly productive player, too.
Yeah, he's a true pro, someone who does things the right way, day in, day out, someone who can show the younger players, how to be a pro. Could fill in at the NHL level still as well. So he was a great captain, a great leader for the Monsters, and unfortunately he wasn't able to play some more games in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, that's true. He did get into 6, and he came in and factored in a big way at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals against Hershey. But 80-plus points and 100-plus games as a Monster from 2021 to 2024. We mentioned his NHL success. He also won a championship in Sweden once upon a time, so a versatile player who's doing great things with the Minnesota Wild and the Iowa Wild this year. We take a moment to recognize the great Brendan Gaunce. Well, that'll do it for our Monsters alumni segment presented by True North Convenience Stores, and that will do it for another edition of Monsters OT. Lots of thank yous to hand out. First and foremost to my co-host Brad Thiessen, of course Nick Blazer doing a great job as usual, telling you who's hot across the league. Thanks to Leo Simone, Jeremy Hawks, and the rest of our outstanding crew, and thanks of course to True North as well. This has been Monsters OT. I'm Tony Brown. We'll catch you next time on Rock Entertainment Sports Network.